Greetings and welcome back to the channel. Well, today I just got back some test results from an ICP test that I sent off about a week ago, and I thought it might be interesting just to go over the results that we have. So, okay, I've already logged into the ATIaquaristic.com website, and here has a listing of how many tanks you have and how many reports you have. Now, in this case, tanks can be considered several things. In this case, just testing my RODI results are considered a tank, just a way of categorizing tests on the site. So let's start with looking at the RODI results. If we view the analysis, we see that for the most part things are looking okay with the RODI. These indicators here with red and the arrow pointing down, meaning it's a lower reading than you would expect, but that's fine. RODI water should have an undetectable salinity compared to natural seawater. Same thing with the alkalinity or carbonate hardness. The only things that actually showed up as issues here are the silicon in my RODI water. It's showing at 13.10 micrograms per liter. Now, the clicking view doesn't really tell me anything further other than perhaps I need to check my RODI unit and replace some of the filter, whether it's the DI resin or maybe even the carbon blocks. Who knows, maybe even the actual membranes themselves. It also found 1.66 micrograms per liter of zinc in the RODI water. Now, let's see, nitrate, it's showing 0, which is a good thing for your RODI water. Only thing is phosphorus, it's showing 2.65 micrograms per liter. Same thing here, not really useful, but those are the only anomalies from testing the RODI water. Now, if I go back, the main thing that's of concern is the main display tank. And view the analysis. It's telling me salinity is just a little high, but still within acceptable range. Same thing for the alkalinity. It was 6.98, whereas it's looking at 7.5 as the standard. Now as I come down, chloride, sodium, magnesium look good. Calcium was a little low at 397, but that's easy enough to correct. In fact, I've since made an adjustment in my dosing of the carbocalcium to bump it up a little. So I haven't tested the calcium since then, but I would expect it's probably crept up closer to 420. Well, this is saying 440 is what you should be aiming for. Potassium's good. Bromine is a little high, and did some checking beforehand. Bromine is often underestimated element, if I can read. but for corals it's extremely important. Stony corals use bromine for the synthesis of coloring chromoproteins, and they need it to form their skeletal structure. So a little bump up in trace element dosing will probably take care of that. Though actually, I'm sorry, the bromine is a little high. Need to pay attention to the arrow so I know which way it's indicating. Now here, if I come down to fluorine, it's saying that it's low. 0.65 versus a standard of 1.36. And fluorine are the building materials of coral skeletons, so it should be supplemented regularly. Interesting also, it says it effectively strengthens the blue and white coloration of SBS corals. All of this is coming from the Aquaforest website. As I keep going, see molybdenum is a bit low at 5.24 micrograms, whereas it should be around 12.5. And molybdenum, sufficiently high concentration of molybdenum also helps to protect the corals from light stress. This is particularly the case in strongly illuminated tanks when working with a dominant blue radiation component, basically blue lights. Molybdenum prevents rapid shifting of corals. That's interesting. As I move a little further, manganese. Manganese is an essential element like iron. It's a nutrient that is important for growth. Manganese also has an effect on the red coloration of corals. Yes, that is low. So I move down further. Vanadium is also low. And had to go to Fonamarian's site in order to get a better definition of how this affects corals, but it's important for the formation of color pigments and growth in corals. Let's see, those are the minor elements. Here we just get to the nutrients. I test my nitrate as 0, whereas it should be 2 milligrams per liter. I'm currently dosing nitrate. I also bumped that dosage up a little. Last test I took was last night and still 0. I'll probably have to adjust it a little further. But phosphorus and phosphate are looking good. And when it comes to the pollutants, all of them except for aluminum are in the undetectable range. So all in all, I don't think that's too bad of a result. No need for rapid water changes in order to try and correct some major imbalance. And just the test that I used is the ATI ICP test. I just got it on Amazon. In fact, I'll probably leave a link in the description for the test kit. But I thought it was kind of interesting just to go over the results, because as I go back to the analysis, my concern was that there may have been a measure of copper in the tank, because I recently changed over a piece of equipment that had some minor exposure to copper. Now, prior to putting it into the tank, I had subjected it to a cleaning process for several days. It was a protein skimmer, and I submerged it in a bucket of vinegar and just let it run constantly for days. After that, I tested it out in my nano tank using, actually I had a couple of different copper tests. I had a C-chem, and there's something else, another one that I can't even think of right now. Both of them showed 0, but I had kept in mind that copper tests generally are for the purpose of making sure you have the right copper levels if you're doing some quarantine or hospital tank work, not if you're just trying to detect the faint amounts that could be problematic to corals. And in order to find that out, you really need an ICP test. So that was really the driving force behind sending off this test. So it's here. The copper is undetectable, which is fine with me. Though I had been and still am running Coopersorb in the sump, and I guess that's maybe made a difference with the undetectable readings as well. But nonetheless, I'm going to keep it in there for the time being. I'll probably refresh it maybe in another week or two. But so far, so good. But again, that's just a view of the ICP test for the tank. Thanks a lot for sticking with me to this point and getting through what probably for many people is kind of a boring thing, just looking at test results. But nonetheless, I appreciate that you did. Thanks for watching, and take care.
Da